Hey guys, welcome back to another Inside Texas Live show. It's the Thursday night live. We've been doing what you got to know about Texas and their upcoming matchup, and tonight we're gonna talk more about the College Football Playoff Committee, their decisions, what their decisions may look like come, I guess, what's Sunday, and then of course we'll get into some portal talk as well because 'tis the season. First off, we got Michelle Lynn joining us for the first time here on Inside Texas, so y'all welcome her, and joined again by Mr. Evan Veith and Nash Talks Texas of Inside Texas. And first, guys, hop on over to Inside Texas right now. Take advantage of the super sale. $1 for the first week. Take advantage of it. So much news going on with the team, portal, bowl season's right around the corner. And then obviously you have signing day that's just been going on, and Texas is still in play for a couple of kids in regards to recruitments there and the first signing day. So go take advantage of that sale right now and join us on the forums, guys. All right, let's get into it.
I got one, y'all.
Just $1.
You got $1, Nash. All right, so this is what I was thinking, guys. I'm going to act as the college. You can see I'm college football playoff chairman Cord, and I will try to counter some stances that our my guests have tonight in regards to Texas. And again, I love Texas and definitely think that we're one of the. I've said this on Twitter, one of the better 12 teams. But again, you are what you are with the record. You're 9-3. You do have a bad loss, and so I definitely get both sides of the coin. The perspective of defend the G5s and the Big 12s, and it makes me sick, but I get it a little bit. And so today I'll be playing both sides, and I'm going to let these guys carry the weight. And so with that being said, I mean, Nash, you're going to have to start us off here. When you think about Texas, where we should be, we're 13 for those that have forgotten, 13th in the current rankings of the college football playoffs. Now, is that too low, Nash? Is that too high? And then the big thing that I have for you is, what do you think it looks like on Sunday? And does it bother you? I think that you've got a pretty strong answer for this, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
I think that it bothers me the most that college football, the early season in college football is now dead. Early season college football is dead. You saw it with Michigan, because I'm also going to make my point for Texas a little bit later with Michigan as well, because you saw a lot of the same things up until Michigan. Screw it, I'll make it right now. If Michigan had beat Ohio State, we're talking about Michigan barely sliding into the college football playoff. They lost 2 other games. One of those games is to, I believe, USC, and the other game is on an early season road game at Oklahoma. The committee, the week before going into Ohio State, had them 1 spot ahead of Texas at number 16. They had Michigan at 15. To me, the committee is sitting there telling us, hey, we don't care about you playing tough games early in the season. We just simply don't. The record is what's going to roll the day at the end when we get to the, what matters. Because if you look at the records, 12-0, 12-0, one loss, 1 loss, 1 loss, 1 loss, 2 loss, 2 loss, 2 loss, 2 loss, 3 losses. There's Texas right there. So when you're also looking at, what teams have done versus top 15 teams, no team has as many wins as Texas does. And not only that, Texas has like a historic level of wins. I believe we have the most top 15 wins of any team since 2016 in the regular season. So this is something that Texas has proven themselves to be able to play against these guys. The only 2 losses that Texas has in the top 15 teams are number 1 and number 3 currently. Number 1, we outgained them almost to the tune of 200 yards, had 2 drives that went into that were in the 10-yard line. That I wish we kicked some field goals or something like that, right? But we don't punch the ball in. We lose the game. We lost. Own the loss, right? But at the end of the day, if Indiana goes out there and gets throttled by Ohio State, there's only 1 team that has actually played Ohio State with even close to some sort of a ball game this year.
First and foremost, is that a threat? Are you threatening to cancel games down the line, Nash? If it were you, are you canceling games down the line?
What? Now that the committee's made their vote, okay, I can fully say, look, like a politician, many things that were tweeted from me in the past 36 hours may have been lies. Maybe. Possibly. I don't know. Sometimes you use words to get things to happen. Okay. All right. Now, that being said, I honestly don't want to look like a. I'm trying to keep some PG words on here, and there's not a lot of words that run through my head. But let's just talk. Let's just say kitty cat. I don't want to be like I'm running with my tail between my legs, running away from Ohio State and Michigan. No, well, you come down to Austin, we'll play y'all, right? We'll play y'all. I do enjoy the whole Notre Dame thing. Get out of here. No one cares about y'all's independence. Go suffer. I honestly, I would love if all the big teams would just like kind of collectively decide, like, yeah, we're not going to schedule Notre Dame. Just let them die on their own little island of independence. But yeah, I'm not necessarily all for threatening canceling those games as I was 36 hours ago. But I just at this point the committee it doesn't make sense for either team to play them. Like, just being honest, if you are a contender, okay, and from what we've seen so far, unless we have now, this is the thing about the college football playoff. We don't know what next year's going to be like. We don't know what 2 years are going to be like. We don't know what the guidelines are going to be in 3 years. We don't know. It could change It could change in the middle of the summer after they announce something. We don't know.
You're not happy with the current format and system that we have in place? I thought we've been doing a pretty bang up job over here.
I didn't say that.
Okay, watch
out now. I'm just saying. I'm saying you don't know what they're going to do. They could come out and they could say, "Hey, we're going to 20 games," and you just got to sit there and smile and take it.
Wild card Saturday, baby.
Right now, the cap is if you have 2 losses in the Big Ten and the SEC, you're on the bubble or you're out. Look at Vanderbilt. Look at some of these other 2-loss teams in the Big Ten. You go and you get to 1 loss in the Big 12 and the ACC, unless you're having a Texas Tech level season. I mean, 1 loss. Look at BYU. They're already on the edge. So if you're a big team, if you're a team that says, not even a big team, but if you're a team that says, hey, you know what? I actually think that we can win our conference. I think that we can get to the college football playoff and we have a shot. There's 0 sense in playing a fellow contender. And it doesn't make sense for either team because now you're taking, if you're in the Big Ten or SEC, one of those losses is going to come to a contender. And it just, in a world where the record is being pushed before playing strength of schedule, they have strength of schedule listed. I mean, if we're going by the guidelines, Texas is seeded 6th, 7th. There's no argument here with what we're talking about. But when you go off of record, just losses, hey, 3 losses, right? Texas does not have the record to get in. We haven't played, we win your games. You lost to Florida, loser, right? That type of stuff. Well, if that's the case, it does not make sense to take your loss because if Texas does not play Ohio State, if we play Texas State and we lose to Florida the same fashion that we did, we lose to Georgia the same fashion that we did, we still have a head-to-head versus A&M. We still have a head-to-head over Oklahoma. We're 10-2, right in there with all those teams. We're easily a 6th seed. So this is just one of those deals where, look, the committee has a choice to say with their vote what they care about. Do they care about the record? Do they care about teams playing strong games? And if they continue to vote the record, the sad part is, as college football fans, we are not going to see a good game until week 3 or 4. And then even then, those games, they may appear good early in the season, right? And then we get to later in the season, we're like, oh yeah, that was like South Carolina. They really weren't that good, right?
Or you get awkward and you start scheduling conference games, like a random conference game early in the year to start the year, and the coaches don't want to do that. I don't think they want to. It makes it really, really weird. But I don't know. I don't know what Evan has to say. Like, do you think this is a snub, Evan? I know that you and I asked for your teams. That you said it was pretty clear that I felt like Texas maybe not deserving, but just get deeper with me than that. Like, what's your take on it all? Are you a fan of you think that BYU is like they've done enough even with the loss to Tech potentially to get in? feel free to bring up any of the other schools or the ones you had ahead to Texas and said they were clearly up there. I want to know.
Well, here's my thing. You look at my Twitter replies, you think that Notre Dame fans hate me. You think that BYU fans hate me. Listen, BYU fans, I'm advocating for you. I'm just tweeting out what Sark's saying. This is not my take. I'd have BYU in. I clearly, if you look at what I've said, don't think Notre Dame deserves this. You're talking about a team that's played 3 total games against anyone. Like, their next, the number 4 is Pitt, who, like, you know, go Panthers. They're a fun team, but if we're talking about the grand scheme of things, like, not a real team that's going to, I guess, tip the scales over your resume. And they went 1-2. And so, like, if you're going to be a non-conference team who, you know, I get this whole thing about playing FCS schools, but is there any difference between playing FCS and Purdue if we're talking about top 15 teams in the nation? Obviously not. You're going to win those games no matter what. So you got a Notre Dame team that's 1-2 in games that really matter. And yeah, they played them early in the year and they've won 10 straight. But in my opinion, and we'll see what the committee actually ends up doing over the next, 2-3 years, if this is kind of the same genre and the same format we're doing, it seems like they are valuing how good they think of you are as a team. And Notre Dame's a top 5 team in FPI and pretty much everywhere where you look, FEI, SP+, all those things. And they think they're one of the 5 teams that's most likely to win the national championship, so they're going to go put them in there. And I see that line of thinking from a TV standpoint, but it's lame, and it's not the reason that we made this kind of thing where more teams get a chance to play in it. Because Notre Dame, and Nash, you're saying about not giving them the scheduling, you think Notre Dame would look worse if they didn't play Texas A&M or Miami? You can be 11-1 Notre Dame where they play nobody. They're going to be in the playoff every time. They want teams to stop scheduling them, so they don't have to do anything all season. They can say, hey, well, we played USC. That's our rival every year. We didn't play an FCS school, even though one of the teams we played was, Missouri State, or I guess maybe they're an FCS. You know what I'm saying? We played Delaware instead of an FCS.
Yeah, to your point, they're 0-2 versus the top 15 teams, Miami and Texas A&M.
And I think USC is a good team. Like they're a team that is a fine point of reference to say, hey, we beat this team. That's a real win. Whatever. That's kind of the same thing as saying a Vanderbilt win's good. But yeah, man, they're just gonna be if they don't have anyone to play against, then they're gonna be 11-1 in the playoff. And if they do have people to play against, then they're gonna lose those games and still get into the playoff. It's just the way that our conferences are aligned. It's way too rewarding for Notre Dame to kind of coast through these bad bottom half Big Ten and ACC teams, and then get one win of their 3 games they need to win, and suddenly they're in. And that's not how it should be. BYU's only losses to a top 5 team in the nation in Texas Tech. They beat Utah, who's a good team. They won the rest of their games in the Big 12, and I know it's the Big 12. Big 12 is better than the ACC. At least is the 3rd best conference. So, yeah, I think BYU should be in. I think Texas would have been in last year. I think BYU and Notre Dame would have been in last year too with this resume. But they just got caught in a bad year where it would have been nicer to have 16 teams instead of 12. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
I don't know if I can get behind the old BYU take, man. I'm going to need to see them step up and play a competitive game with Tech. If they do fight Tech tooth and nail, maybe that changes, man. And that's not me advocating for Texas. It's just simply I said last night on the show, I'm big on the eye test. And so, Michelle, when it comes to the teams ahead of Texas, and I know you've been active on Twitter and other platforms where, you kind of are advocating for Texas a little bit. With the teams ahead of you, and again, welcome to Inside Texas, but the teams ahead of us, is there anybody that you think of maybe just as like, you're like, I don't get it. Like, how is this team, even maybe with one less loss, how are they ahead of Texas, or anything that just really bothers you from the rankings in general?
It's not so much that the rankings necessarily bother me. Like, I obviously agree in that I believe we're better than Miami, BYU, and Notre Dame. And I'd say we're a very comparable team to Alabama, especially considering we have a win over a common opponent. I can't recall off the top of my head if Alabama played Florida or not. Florida is like the nail in our coffin for anybody's argument against us. But I think that the biggest thing to me is when they created the 12-team playoff, it was said that the goal was to make it not be about your losses and be about your wins, to kind of do like a psychological mind shift. Because I even remember Coach Saban saying this, what are we teaching these men if they're only judged by their losses? But I feel like now we're 2 years into this 12-team playoff. And once again, what is Texas being judged by? Our worst loss to Florida, which was an 8-point loss. And that was a kitchen sink type of game to them. So I just feel like, to me, the whole goal of why we went to 12 teams is washed away when you have a team like Texas that beat 3 top 10 opponents. And for the people who want to get technical and say Vandy isn't top 10 anymore, 3 current top 13 opponents. Okay. And I just think it's not really fair that they really went out of their way to say this is how we're going to judge teams and put them into the playoffs. And then to kind of pull the rug out and say, actually, no, we're doing it based off eye test, based off record, based off of these FPI rankings, things like that. But they're not being forthcoming with it. They're still skirting around it. And they're using the get out of jail free card of, well, Texas has lost to Florida and it was an overtime win. While then backtracking and saying that Alabama's win over Auburn was worthy of moving them up, even though I think anybody who watched that game is like, what? Why did you move them up? So I just think there's a lot of inconsistencies. They're kind of going against the whole premise of why we went to 12 teams anyways. And it's very irking because if your team is operating on creating the schedules, going off of these guidelines, but then you operate off of the old, it's just off your record guidelines, like it just doesn't feel fair to me. It feels like a rug being pulled.
It does say, I mean, and again, there's one thing that's keeping me from like fully diving on and being on that opinion with you. And that's just that I am big on the eye test. And we did have a very stretch of games where it's like Kentucky, where we get just kind of whipped around in the box score, but somehow go with get out of there with a win. But again, as I mentioned on Twitter this week, like a lot of good teams have struggled. Evan's beloved BYU Cougars, you know, like they've skirted by a couple times, you know, in that vaunted Big 12. And no, that's not to discredit Evan or his take. BYU is a good football team, obviously, and they're well damn coached. Do I like Texas on the football field with BYU? Of course I do. There's a big difference in the type of players that we're recruiting right now. And I don't know. I mean, Malik Murphy had a pretty good game last time that we played BYU, and that one wasn't ever a contest. And I don't expect it to go like that. But no, I don't really, fear BYU. I do, of course, respect them though. And again, they go earn it this week, and then I'm probably going to have a little bit different of a tune. I think Tech is pretty dang good. But no, overall, Michelle, I thought that was, really well said, because they did tell you, like, hey, it's not about your losses. It is about your wins. And I think they say that, and, because of the SEC and because of the Big Ten and the potential for super conferences down the line. And so that's where it gets really murky, is like going, into the future. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But real quick, guys, we're going to go to our first sponsor of the night, Mr. David McClellan.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
Alrighty, guys, hit up Mr. McClellan when needed. For the fans, of course, for viewership purposes, if you're not in Provo, if you're in Austin, or even if you're in maybe the dunes of North Carolina and the Sandhills or whatever, like, if you like college football, like, the majority of people do not want to see a G5 team play. Not modern day G5 teams. There are no more Boise States in the Mountain West, or TCU and the WAC or whatever the hell that they were in. Those teams that were laden with upperclassmen and experience, and both obviously really damn well coached. And that's not to knock G5 coaches. But what happens if a kid balls out at G5 now? If he balls out hard enough, where is he at? He's playing in the SEC. He's playing in the Big 10 or the Big 12. My proposal to fixing all of this is pretty simple. That's it. their G5 has their own playoff, the same way that Division 2 has had their, and Division 3 has had their own playoffs and rocked it, and it's been really simplistic. Like G5 just forms its own playoff. Now, again, you're going to have the issue of Power 4 taking kids off their rosters. So, but that's just kind of, I think, going to be the nature of the beast. But just make it simple, rip the damn Band-Aid, give up the Cinderella dream that we all want to hold on to. It's dying in March Madness as well, thanks to the transfer portal and NIL. Just give it up in college football, because I just don't think that this is very, very unfair, I think, and no disrespect to North Texas, Tulane, whoever it is. If the system's around next year, I'll be rooting for Texas State to get in there like crazy, and I'll back them, and I'll throw propaganda for them all season. But we just got to get rid of it. And I think it has to happen now, because it's a different era of G5 football, and they're just not going to be able to compete. You saw the hypothetical lines we talked about on the show last night, not to bring that up again, but it's going to be some tough matchups. And
I will say part of it is, Boise State earned their spot last year. They were a top 10 ranked team. They had that. But, I think whatever team wins the American this year is probably are they, say Virginia wins, are they better than Virginia? Is their resume better than Virginia? Virginia is not a top 15 team right there. So then you're just kind of giving two not top 15 teams a spot because, politics, and you need to make sure conference champions are getting in. Frankly, I get why you have the ACC doing it, but they don't deserve to get it in this year. The teams that are the two teams that are playing in the national or their conference championships. But and one of the biggest indicators is, Eric Morris is a fantastic coach at North Texas. And if you want to make this argument that they're in the same league as Power 4 teams, he just went and took a job at literally the worst Power 4 team this year. No other Power 4 team was worse than Oklahoma State. He just took that job, left the chance of playing in the playoff. It's a minor league versus pro kind of argument. These are guys who are, if you're going there as a recruit, it's for the idea that you can maybe go and play in the Power 4 eventually, because you can play a little earlier, or you need more time to develop. You're not going to be able to develop at a place like Texas, or even a place like Auburn, something like that. It's being treated by the people there like a minor league system. It's weird that we're now, for teams that aren't deserving, putting them in just because they're in a certain tier of teams. This would be such a good year to just put 12 teams in, and the 12 most deserving teams. And that would, maybe that still isn't Texas in the committee's minds, but that's BYU, Notre Dame, Miami, all those teams would have a better chance of winning a national championship than Virginia and North Texas would.
And I mean, I disagree with that comment that just popped up on the screen, and it's just
no, he's right. Tell me he is. Tell me Sooners Cowboy. Tell me he's not right. There's not.
I don't think there's a Group of 5 team that can go match up against when you're talking about the Ohio States or the Alabamas, or the Georgias. I don't think that there's a Group of 5 team that can recruit those types of bodies that are going to win a national championship and go 4 games in the playoffs, win 4 straight games. And I think honestly, what we've seen is probably I think it's one of the more sadistic things that we've seen happen to our sport. I don't think that they invited the Group of 5 team in to, let them get a playoff shot, let them get a spot. I think they invited the Group of 5 teams in to kind of, for lack of better words, embarrass them. Let them get embarrassed in these games, and then they can say, hey, they're not even competing. Let's cut this stuff out, right? And this is just where I go to what you said earlier off the rip court. And this is something I've thought about for a long time now. I don't understand how you can have a team inside of a league that doesn't have a chance to win a national championship. We had a Group of 5 teams that were going 12-0, and they weren't even in the thought of entering the playoff. And to me, that's not that the answer isn't saying, oh well, let's create a spot where they automatically get in. That's not the answer. The answer to that is they aren't it's what Evan said. They are not in the same league as these teams. You have the Power League, and then you have the Group of 5 league. It's the reason why we separate them when we start talking about them. And when you go and you look at this, I think it's actually just horrible that we've had these. There's these group of guys. They can go out there. They can have as good of a season as possible, and they can never win it. They can never have any sort of significance in the postseason. Making a bowl game for James, I remember James Madison. They're sitting there saying, "Let us bowl." Right now, granted, that's different. That's just That's just them getting into the FBS for year one. They weren't allowed to, right? But just looking at how happy they were just even be able have the thought of being invited to a bowl game. In my opinion, these teams, they should have a tournament where they can go out there and they can win a national championship, and they can say, "Look, we're the best team." And this is where I would disagree with Evan with last year's team. Like last year's team, the Boise State team, I would agree they are the closest that a Group of 5 team has ever gotten to being able to be worthy of being in a playoff spot. They got dominated 31-14. It wasn't even a ball game versus Penn State.
Yeah.
That should tell us everything that we need to know about the Group of 5 being in the playoff. It's just
But
not.
you could see that.
Yeah, but they only lost by 3.
That right there, the Boise State team last year should have been the best. Like when you're talking about Group of 5 national champions, that team should be remembered as the greatest Group of 5 team of national champions that has played. And we're not going to remember them that way. I vehemently disagree with the idea that you can be inside of a league and not have a shot to make it, because this is different than baseball. Baseball, when you get into baseball, there's a reason why we play 3-game series. When you get into Omaha and you get into these one game can knock you off, double elimination tournaments, crazy stuff can happen. And that's where you just saw that happen with Murray State this last year, the Murray State Racers. That's why Cinderellas can exist in baseball, but that idea doesn't work in football.
Yeah, I agree with Nash. Just to touch on last year's Boise team as well. Their whole season was predicated off of we need to make sure that Ashton Jeanty gets the Heisman ceremony. You could tell about a few games in, they're like, okay, his stats, he's approaching legacy status. We're just going to hand the ball off and ride through him, because the level of competition they were playing was severely under, that of the Big Ten, SEC, etc. And then you can actually see it now. I love Ashton Jeanty as a player. He's the running back on my fantasy team. My fantasy team isn't doing very well because he's kind of getting a reality check of oh, shoot, this is what it's like to play against these big bodies week in, week out. It's been a little bit up and down. I think long term, he's going to be amazing in the NFL. But he was sort of like a G5 unicorn. He was also a very selfless player that elected not to go in the portal and take more NIL money, even though he had the offers. That's just not going to come around every year. And it's not fair to expect players to do that either. People have to take care of their families and themselves first. I totally get that. And so I agree. You just can't have these auto bids in an industry that's college football. It's $1 billion industry. We can't just be giving out participation trophies. It's not fun, fair, positive soccer. I think that's just the reality that needs to set in. I totally agree with Nash that it would be awesome if there was a mega G5 tournament. And like he said, that could have been the best G5 team of all time, and then let them discuss and debate, would they have done well in the playoffs? Let that be their lore and kind of their white whales of talking about that. I just think it's unrealistic to expect any of them to ever make an impact in the playoffs. And of course, as I've gone on this diatribe, maybe North Texas goes on to blow us out, but I highly, highly, highly doubt that happens.
That Boise team was losing to 6-6 Oklahoma or 8-4 A&M last year. It's not fair. You have to have their rankings matter, I guess. Mm-hmm. I hate the rankings. I hate it so much because, like you just said, they pushed Boise State from the jump when Jeanty had the big games and the big game and the loss to Oregon. They did have a couple of fun non-con games, and then it's just, come on, the competition's not there. Mm-hmm. You can see that there's no way that in the trenches would they hold up, and that's where the big difference is in the Big Ten, the SEC, and what you're going to see at the G5 level. And Boise had a fantastic team, as all of y'all are saying, should have been the best G5 natty champ ever. But in the trenches, there's no way that they could hold up. And I think that's very well said by both of you. Evan, we're not trying to dog on your Boise State Broncos or your BYU Cougars. I promise. I think you're arguably the most handsome man inside Texas. We got to drag you down, lift you back up, man. Yeah, there we go. That's fine.
I will. One last small thing on the Boise State thing. The big thing that helped them last year was Oregon ended up being the 1 seed, and they only lost by 3 in Eugene last year.
Right.
So you're perfect, and your only loss is to the best team in the country in theory, and you lost by 3 at their home, which is kind of by how bettors work on net.
And then Oregon beats Ohio State as well.
Yeah.
a few
Like
weeks after
Oregon
that.
looked like the best team. Ohio State did not look like the best team in the country. And also, the teams like 9 through 13 did not have good resumes. So, you could have given, I would have preferred if you just give Boise State like hey, do you want to? You don't have to, but like, do you want to play in the playoff? If not, you go dominate UNLV and North Texas, JMU, whoever it was last year. And you can have your title. But if you want to try and compete, go for it. Like, we're not going to stop you. We'd invite you.
Yeah, I mean, they did have that close game versus Oregon, but then you also go and you look at they barely escaped UNLV, they barely escaped Nevada, they barely escaped Wyoming at home.
Yeah,
I'm
just saying
they had some serious question marks on their resume, but this goes to the same thing that we're talking about this year. Strength of schedule does not matter. It's simply, do you have the wins and losses? And if you manage to have if you're sitting there and you're an SEC or Big Ten team with 10-2 or on your record, you're most likely going to be in the playoffs. Sorry about that, Vanderbilt. And this is the other thing is like it's wild to me. Like I if you're A&M or Oklahoma, or even as much as I think that Alabama has some serious question marks and potentially shouldn't be in. If you're going by strength of schedule and strength of record, those teams have a hell of an argument to be ranked higher than they are right now. Yeah. To being like, if I'm Oklahoma, I'm sitting there going, we played one of the toughest. We hosted Michigan. We played one of the toughest schedules in the nation. We go 10-2, and for what? We're not hosting a playoff game. Like for why? Why? For why? You got some team that has what a 45th ranked strength of schedule ahead of it. Like it just it doesn't make sense. But then to that point, this might answer a future question that you might have for me. I might be jumping the gun here. I wouldn't if Texas gets ranked by the committee, man. I wouldn't be surprised. The committee could you give me any sort of rhyme or reasoning for anything the committee's done this year? I can't. So if they put Texas in, I'd be like, I don't know. I mean, Notre Dame was ahead of Miami.
See, I feel like we're last year's, and real quick, guys, we're gonna, we'll go to commercials. I feel like I might run.
My bad. I jumped.
No, you fired me up for a minute.
I fired a cannon shot off. I fired a cannon shot. Jumped the gun.
No, we're having a good time so far. But yeah, let's go to Laura Baker real quick, guys, and we'll keep going.
If you're looking for a home in the Austin area, there's only one number to call. That's Laura Baker at 512-784-0505. Laura's a part of the elite Andy Allen team at Keller Williams Realty. She's helped Longhorns find their dream homes all over Central Texas. You can just ask our very own Ian Boyd, who moved from Michigan to Texas with Laura's help. Whether you're searching in Austin, Round Rock, Georgetown, San Marcos, or even parts of the 254 or the 210, Laura has you covered. So call 512-784-0505, or you can email her at laura@andyallenteam.com. She's a Longhorn, a friend of Inside Texas, and the person you need to call to get your next home in Central Texas. Call Laura Baker today. Contact info is in the description.
And so, you kind of got me fired up right there, Nash, just because last year I was advocating hard for South Carolina because I did think that they passed the eye test, and I also think that they had the stretch of games where they lost LSU in a crazy game, but only in my opinion because Lenore Sellers went down. I think they probably went by double digits, 10, 14 points in that game, the way it started before Lenore's got hurt late in the second quarter, and then they lost to Alabama shortly after in a very, I think a 4-point game it was, and then get hot, rattle off a bunch of wins. Well, we're kind of this year's South Carolina, and so there's a lot of teams I feel good about in a matchup. I will say this, though, Sooner Cowboy, that I can't say I like the 14 better because like we have crazy quarterfinal matchups. Like it wasn't crazy, but Ohio State thumping Oregon right after Texas and Arizona State played a OT game. Even just seeing those teams on the field again together was cool. And then obviously our game, I'm not going to call it cool, but it was something. And I know a lot of people had fun watching it. And so, good for y'all hosting a playoff game. Like we said last night, the people there are going to be incredibly fired up. Appreciate you watching tonight, brother. Thanks for being here with us. Since it's all just Texas guys and we don't have Dave or one of our Sooner guys on. What you got, Nash?
I was just going to say that whole 4 conference champions being in the playoff is horrible idea. If that's because we're sitting here staring at a potential Duke being in the being the ACC champion. And if that's one of your 4 playoff teams, that is not a good playoff. That is a bye week and then a national championship.
Can you imagine if that was the setup this year? Like, look at the discourse right now. Can you imagine the discourse going on if it was only 4 spots and Duke might get an
Ohio State or Indiana would have it made?
Oh my god!
No, because it'd be conference. I don't know who would be in the 2 seed, but yeah,
it would be a
1 seed to have it made.
I will say that there's just no way you could do that. That would be the dumbest, most egregious decision that you've ever made in the history of college athletics. Like that would be horrid.
Hey, Notre Dame would join a conference real quick though.
Yeah, well, yeah, cool. It forces them to. But like,
ACC, we're ready.
They join the ACC. Yeah, they get them on line 1.
Yeah, I mean, that would make no sense whatsoever and would be infuriating. And that's not because I'm scared that we can't make the top 4, but I mean, we just went 6-2 in the dang conference, and it's not top 4. I will say this year we were kind of hurt by the fact that there was just not much carnage. You didn't see the traditional upsets late season, some of the big dramatics that you've seen in college football for so many years. It could be, for various reasons, just it's going to happen at times, but Texas got, really no help down the year. And I said coming into the season, 11-1 ceiling, 9-3 floor, but I felt very, very confidently that a 9-3 Texas with the road games that we had, and then, just that it was possible, but also assuming that we won 1 or 2 of them, that would be strong enough to get us into the playoffs. And so, but yeah, we didn't get the help that I thought Texas would get at all, to be honest. I thought we'd see a little bit more. But when teams are really kind of down and they're making coaching changes mid-season, and it felt like half the conference just kind of laid down towards the end.
Well, it's also one of these deals where, I mean, you're probably right if the committee's going by their guidelines. If the committee's going by their guidelines, Texas is in the playoffs. I mean, this is where I don't even think it's we're not even debating Texas being in the playoffs. We're maybe talking about, should Texas be as high as they are, right? Is Texas overrated going into the playoffs? But I mean, it's a matter of the committee hasn't really followed what they say is good. They've clear listed things that these matter. And then going into the year, I mean, you heard Steve Sarkisian. It wasn't just him. You heard Joel Klatt, Josh Pate. They were talking about, hey, these games, these are games that are going to be rewarded, right? Playing these tough games early in the season, the committee, they're going to look at these games and they're going to say, hey, you lost this, still a positive check mark on your resume because you went out and played this game when other people aren't. And
well, of course, it's going to depend on how you play in that game. I'll just say, you got to show up and compete. Yeah. And
even then, Texas did. And that's where, you look at that, we could easily get to the other side of this conference championship weekend and say Texas is the team that's played Ohio State the best of any team this year so far.
All right. Before we go to some maybe a little bit of portal talk, and I feel like we almost will go right back to playoffs. I just feel like we're all right there ready to talk more. But there's just so many angles that you can make. Yes or no, does Texas get in the end? And we know it feels like a absolute low percentage chance if there is a chance. But like Nash did say, this is a pretty unpredictable committee. Bring up Nash and he bounces.
And he's gone.
He's out of here.
Doesn't want to hear it.
The committee.
He's Batman. But yeah, done with the committee. So, they did bring up the point at the end of the show about idle teams being able to flip. And I just thought it was pretty interesting that they brought that up. It almost feels like they're setting us up. Is that the burn orange blood in me? I'm kind of rooting for a miracle, possibly so. But maybe the viewership wins out in the end, and it's gonna piss a lot of people off. Let's be honest, a lot of people are pretty irate. I would get called names on Twitter, but I get called names almost daily on Twitter, so it's really nothing new. But yes or no, does Texas get in? Michelle Lynn, the floor is yours. What's your final verdict?
No, I don't think we get in. I think the only path would have been for them to put us at number 10 and to go ahead and pass Miami and all of them. So I think that honestly, one of the last spots is probably going to come down to Miami and Notre Dame. And that is just depending on how some of the conference championships go. But I think we're done. It's out.
Evan?
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm already mentally preparing myself to be in Tampa Bay or Orlando for New Year's Eve. Joe's going to ditch me. I'm just going to be there by myself. Yeah, they're not getting in. I know what they said at the end of the show. You're 3 spots away. The best things that could happen would be stuff for 2 conference championship games. I don't think it's happening.
Yeah.
Ash man.
All right, we're going heads. Oh shit!
That's a lamp.
Most
It's a
ethical
lamp.
taste
We're not in the
Ash
playoffs.
take.
Darn, man.
No,
The committee,
we're-
Hey, watch that actually be the committee's decision making process. Flip a
Flash
coin.
TV Hunter Eurocheck flips a coin.
to me, there was two things that really kind of gave it away. Like, and we're not getting in, but like, 2 weeks ago, I think it was after the Georgia game, like we dropped all the way to like what was it, 16?
Yeah.
Like we dropped like in that, that I thought was like going to be tough to overcome, and then the fact that they did flip Alabama over Notre Dame, it kind of locked in the fact that they're not going to drop a 3-loss team that had their third loss in the conference title game. Considering it's the SEC, they're not going to drop them out. But it is what it is. I'm not upset with the way the season ended. Obviously, not many are. The Georgia game stings. You won 6 out of 7 to close. There's a lot of positives. You got to go win the offseason, though. That's how you start winning for 2026 on the football field. So a lot to talk about with that. And real quick, we'll get to this questions, and we'll get to some portal. Notre Dame at OU would be a fun matchup.
That'd be a good one.
I don't think they're perfect on defense. You saw A&M and Miami have a lot of success, but that was a defense that had some spots to fill. And also, CJ Carr's had a lot of time. Sorry, defense has had some spots to fill, and that defense has had time to get a lot better under a defensive-minded head coach. And then also, CJ Carr looks a lot better, and then that running game is that running game. So I don't careful what you wish for, man. There's easier matchups out there. I'd almost root for Miami, considering the trend line of what Miami looks like, and that's if I was a Sooner fan wanting to get out of there. But the matchup, Notre Dame and OU, the brand versus brand, I feel like that would be the bigger, maybe a little more fun. I get that.
And I know I'm joking about like the whole coin flip thing, but like this is where like I think that I know this is delusional, right? But this is where at the same time, what is the committee told us that has any sort of consistency? And what we've been told all year long, what the thought about the committee was, hey, they're going to reward these early season games. They'll never punish these games, right? They aren't going to punish these games because they want these games are great for college football, and they want more of these games in college football. You sit there, and that's the same argument that they have for when you get asked the question, well, what happens if Alabama gets blown out by Georgia, right? Oh, well, they'll never allow that. The SEC would never allow that, right? They would want to protect these games. They want to protect the conference championship games. One, you've already seen the college football playoff they're not caring about the conference championship games. You see that moving away from giving those teams a bye. But also too, like, I mean, it is funny, like hearing the arguments for people, like when they talk about Alabama getting blown out, like they're like, if Alabama gets blown out, it gets beat by 25 points, just like Texas did. It's like you hear Josh Pate he's on ESPN this morning, sitting there saying, well, the football scored into the 7s and the 3s. That can happen real quick. Well, yeah, Texas fans know that, and that's kind of been the whole argument with Texas fans is, yeah, you can play in a good game versus Georgia, have a score of 25 to 10, have a 25 score difference, and you still played a really good game because guess what? Football scored in 7s and 3s, and things can happen really quickly, and they did happen really quickly for Texas. But that's just one of those deals where I think that, man, the committee, they have not only not been consistent enough, but they haven't been consistent with what they've been telling the media members, and also not only media members, but head coaches. If Alabama goes out there and gets blown out, BYU loses, and then I don't think this has to happen. This helps, Indiana getting blown out. That helps Texas look better. And I think the one thing that people that haven't been talking about, I think I talked about this with Evan off channel. The one game nobody's talking about as a Texas fan that we need to happen, Virginia needs to win the ACC. If Virginia doesn't win the ACC, there's going to be a strong push because, I mean, you have the 12-team playoff. If you have the 12-team playoff and one of the Power 4 conferences isn't in, the entire reason why the 12-team playoff was made the way it is to get all the Power 4 conferences in. If you're keeping a Power 4 conference out with a 10-2 team that's right on the bubble, there's going to be a lot of pushback. So I know that kind of goes against what I just said with the whole Alabama stuff, but I think that you want to see Virginia win, BYU lose, blowout with Alabama, and a good margin victory for Ohio State over Indiana. But at the same time,
I mean, there's a dream out there where Ohio State blows out Indiana, and Georgia blows out Alabama, and Tech blows out BYU. And then,
I'm
in my
also a
opinion,
billionaire though too, in one of those
yeah,
worlds.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like I've trust me, I was one of the first people to dream that one up. Don't get me wrong, but the ACC doesn't belong. ACC doesn't belong.
True.
I would argue Miami's their only option, and the trend line of Miami doesn't impress them more than I would take a Tech. I would take Vanderbilt over Miami right now. I would take Texas over Miami right now. And I'll be honest with you, I might take Michigan over Miami right now. And
Let's pump the brakes on that.
And would it surprise
Hey,
you if
that
surprise
defense would stymie that. I'm just telling you.
would it surprise you if out of nowhere the committee just the committee moves Texas and Miami over BYU, but all of a sudden Texas and Miami are switched now?
No,
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
No surprises.
Like, yeah,
I will say
that's what I'm
this.
saying. It's like this committee, like you could just throw darts at it. They might as well be throwing darts at the wall, picking teams.
Well, you know what the stupidest thing is that the best like spot you can get is one of these teams is the 11 seed. Go play Ole Miss. Like no coach, you get to play Pete Golden head coaching. Who knows what players want to play in that game? Like the 11 seed is maybe the second best spot to have in the entire.
We're supposed to be making them feel better.
That's what I told Nash. I was like, that's my vision. You know, the return of the Manning to Oxford. You know, the Manning name to Oxford. You know, I mean, storybook. That viewers think about what that's going to do in comparison to who might get that 11 seed and might go to Oxford and what that game might look like. But again, who knows what the Rebs look like in that one? I will say this: where is it, Evan? So today, I believe Steve Wiltfong this afternoon of On3 reported on Inside Texas that Chris Henry was heavily leaning Oregon. I believe he put in a pick for Henry to Oregon. Have you heard it or seen anything else since then?
I don't think anything's official yet, but I think the Wiltfong pick happened. I know Jalen Lott did commit like an hour and a half ago, which, man, imagine how Texas is going to feel. I'll put this on our board if seeing DeCorian Moore, Evan Stewart, Jalen Lott, and Chris Henry running routes from Oregon while, with what's going on with Texas's receiver room would not be fun.
And they're always going to find a quarterback, man. The portal era, there will, so and those guys, it's going to be fun. But as far as Texas goes and the transfer portal, anything that you really want to see, and we'll start with you, Michelle, anything that you really want to see Texas position-wise target, can be offense, can be defense, could be one of each. What you got?
I think that we have a lot of areas we can improve. The most obvious one being the trenches, the offensive line. And then I think running back room too, we could use somebody who's kind of a proven commodity in there. I think that we're all putting a lot of stock in Derek Cooper, who I love as a signee. I think he's going to be amazing, but it could be nice to have some assurance in there. We sort of were banking on guys who were coming back from major injuries to be huge contributors. And I think it kind of bit us in the end because those injuries take so long to recover from. And then sort of an underrated one on offense as well that I would like to see would be a wide receiver. Because I thought that Ian and Connor on a live stream today on the Inside Texas channel, they were talking about how, are we trying to be a 10-win team or are we trying to win a national championship? In how they were like evaluating the roster. And I thought that was a really good perspective because on paper, I think we have a really strong wide receiver returning room, but at the same time, like, do we have an Xavier worthy burner type, And I don't necessarily know that we do. We kind of have it with Wingo, but not really. So like, I think that's why they were going so hard for Lott and Henry. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe not necessarily Cam Coleman, but somebody else in the portal. I wouldn't be surprised if we sneak another weapon into the wide receiver room. On defense, I'm not as well versed in terms of like what our needs are. So you guys would probably be better speaking on that. But for offense, I feel like there's a lot of areas we can add some depth for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think we'll all agree with you there. It would be nice to have a true number one wide receiver, not be talking about who our number one wide receiver is coming into November and back-to-back years, because that's kind of been the reality of those seasons. A guy that you just know is going to be that dude, and don't say that, it's kind of hard to find. Not in this era, all right? If you really want that dude is out there somewhere. You got to evaluate. You got to make sure it's the proper team fit. But there's guys out there like a Nick Marsh already. There will be other very big names out there. And Nash looked like he felt something when I said Nick Marsh. Look at the way the guy, oh yeah, there it is again. That's a guy I watched. God, who did he tear up early in the season? I can't remember who it was.
Everybody.
Well, I mean, he had a monster game, and can't remember which one it was, but maybe like 3 touchdowns, a ton of yards. But yeah, so that's the name that I'd be paying attention to immediately. I like that guy a lot.
sure.
But yeah,
I
so
think the other problem with him is he maybe just kind of overlaps the idea that he's not going to be exactly the burner type. He's going to be your go get a ball, which technically Texas did struggle with that this year. They struggled a lot at receiver, but like a name if you want that one would be like Jace Brown at Kansas State, who he might declare, but that's a dude that's got like sideline to sideline speed, who's at Kansas State, and say Sark wants to go get a receiver like that. That's one of those guys who you could not have to break the bank for, but give him a little money, say, hey, we need a guy your skill set. You might not be the number one, but go have fun.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, that's true. I mean, you go ahead, Ash.
I think one of the issues that people are like we run into when we start talking about these portal wide receivers, it's the Matthew Golden issue. Steve Sarkisian's offense is not something that you just hop into and you start running routes and you
Right.
hey, I'm open, right? Like there's a lot of complexity that goes into this, and it's just like I think you see it with an Emmett Mosley. You know, a lot of his like slow oncoming was more injuries than being able to mentally pick up the playbook. But I mean that's a smart dude, right? He's not getting a lot of run until like later in the year. Like this is like a dude that is going to like be a surgeon. So he's like. The Steve Sarkisian offense takes some time to pick up, and I think that's where I think that you're going to be behind the 8 ball when you're talking about with portal wide receivers. But man, I just like I think that I do also think that we're in the situation where Wingo is going to be our wide receiver 1 next year. I think that he's shown us too much promise late in the year with his. I mean, if you were in a coma and you woke up halfway through the Georgia year, you'd be like, wow, that Wingo guy, he must have had a great year, right? No. He just had a great year ever since after that horrible first half versus Georgia. Everything before that was kind of up and down. There's so much promise there, right? When those hands are working, those are like the jaws of life, right? they're out there. He's got some strong hands, but I mean, dude. Give me a guy, especially with Arch Manning and his deep ball. Just give me a dude that if he's one-on-one with the defensive back, like the ball's his, right?
Yeah.
Because if we have that level guy, I mean, I feel like this offense goes to a completely whole new level. But the positions that I want to see us hit the most are, I mean, dump every last cent that you can into center, specifically center. Like my priority list and offensive line or and portal is center, guard, and
Not
then
enough-
we can
not
start
enough
and then
guards.
and then we can start worrying about all this other crap, right? You don't win football games without winning in the trenches. It's just I think that's been proven time and time again. Defensive line, I'm not worried about it. I think that we got enough of the young guys that we got in the portal come back, plus some guys that we have.
They need a nose tackle. That's about it.
I've seen some people saying defensive back. I mean, safety.
I'd like
I
one
think that
more safety. I'm being honest.
maybe one more safety, but at that point, you're not going to be able to pull in a stud. I mean, because Jonah's getting that. Jonah's going to get a lot of look at that's starting safety job next year.
Yeah, for sure. But give me a little depth and give me a little bit more experience
I know, but that's
to help out.
But it's hard to bring in like that level of a guy if you're not able to promise him. Now, I mean you're also money can make a lot of things go away.
I mean, we honestly hit that portal jackpot at the safety position about as high as we could ever hit it. Number wise with Makuba. You're not going to replicate that.
No. You're not going to get that ever again.
But yeah, go ahead, F.
I do think the spot that we've glossed over, just the running back position. I know interior O line is the number one priority, and that's where you overspend to go get your guys in the portal there because there's a huge overhaul. Like the tackles are kind of what it is, and they're fine. Gooseby and Baker are gonna be really good next year. I like Brooks. I like Turndine. They're gonna recruit it better going forward. But interior sucks, and At running back, like Wisner's great, but he can't be the number one for a third straight year. We know this.
Right.
Cooper's a true freshman. A lot of what he does is athletically superior to these guys. And it's hard to be a better athlete than people in Florida, but he is. And not a lot of it is this pure, like, Texas, which they like to run zone, but they also like to run gap. They can't decide which ones they like each week in and out. And that's tough on a true freshman. So they need to, it is the easiest position in college football to just go, all right, Conference USA, AAC, whatever you want. You're doing well. You look like you can run the ball at the Power 4 level. We're going to give you a contract, and suddenly you're good. Kentucky and Arkansas, their two starting running backs, both played at New Mexico State last year, and they were both better than the running backs Texas had all year outside of Wisner in the two rivalry games, pretty much. You can go find, I don't know if Caleb Hawkins is going to go follow Eric Morris at North Texas. That guy is destroying the AAC. You got Cam Cook, who's from Central Texas at Jacksonville State, 1,500-yard rusher. I think there's a guy at Rutgers who's going crazy this year. Went for 200 on Penn State. And then obviously see what Jaden Baugh is doing. See if he's bought out with Summerall. But there just has to be – it can't just be some like other guy, just some depth guy. They need a 1A, 1B with Wisner this year. And that has to be, hey, running back's an ugly position to spend money on. You have to do it. You need to be able to run the ball in the SEC.
See, I personally –
Oh, God.
I was going to say, I personally glossed over Trey Wisner because I have ignored Trey Wisner too many times this year. Trey's not the problem. Trey's not the problem. The problem is the offensive line's not getting pushed. I mean, you don't have holes to open up. Like you cannot expect running backs. I will out myself as saying somebody that has many times, Cord can verify this 100%. I have said, hey, and this is, look, Trey, my apologies to you. I've always said that you're a dog. I always said that we need to go get another running back. We need to get a real running back one. Trey Wisner's not a real running back one. I still would say that Wisner's not a running back one, but when you're talking about portal needs too, I don't think that even comes close to being a need for Texas when you're talking about this offensive line is not doing anything as far look at this last game. I would point to this last game as saying when you get good run blocking and you actually get holes opening up, that second half versus A&M, that's what happens. You actually start to see running backs run really well. And that's where I say that a Trey Wisner, who hasn't been a running back one level guy. Like I was sitting there saying, let's go get Jaden Baugh, man. And if Jaden Baugh commits to Texas, I'll be running up and down the street. I'll be parading. I will 100% be, happy with that. But when it comes to not, like when we actually start to open up lanes and open up holes, it doesn't matter who's got the ball. As long as the guy knows which gap to run to. Any athletic guy that you have can go get the job done. I mean, look at a guy like Priest Holmes. Priest Holmes was never going to be that's why there's you got a Devon A-Chain. That's why a guy like a Devon A-Chain can go out there and he can have success just like a Priest Holmes can. There's so much range in the athleticism of those two guys. If you open up holes, anybody can run through a hole. And that's just it. To me, that's why the priority has to be so far on the offensive line. And I think that we got guys like James Simon. We got plenty of guys on this roster that can actually go and run the ball if we have open holes. I don't think that I think it'd be very disrespectful to say that Trey Wisner and did you just hear Priest Holmes? Yes, you did. Hey, I'm not just some non-ball.
I don't know where that compares.
I'm not some non-ball nor. I use that to look.
A-Chain and Priest Holmes because we're gonna have to have a phone call after this.
No, because they're very far on the athletic skill. I mean, would you say Priest Holmes is anywhere near the athleticism?
They were both elite for their time, though. Your point that you're making is it doesn't matter that anybody can run through these holes. And Texas football is not accustomed to just having, and that's just not what Trey Wisner is. He's not an average Joe Blow. He's earned more respect than that. If I had a fourth child, I would name him or her Quintravion. But we are used to having elite backs, okay? Game-changing, breaking tackles at second and third levels. If you want, as Michelle brought up earlier, from referencing the earlier IT show, if you want to build your team like a national title-winning team, you are in dire need of more help via the portal at the running back position, Nash. I love you, but that I can't get behind that take. I just cannot.
I
You
would
have
say-
to.
I would say-
have
I would
to have
also
it.
I would say those guys did it without an elite run blocking offensive lines. Texas has never been known for having a great run blocking offensive line. And here's
It's
where
not
I'm
gonna be
You
good
still
next
have a
year.
running game
It's
at
not
that
gonna
point.
be
You
good
still have a
next-
running game.
It's
You
not
would
gonna
have a
be
running
good.
game.
Be good.
You can't not have a running game. It goes hand in hand, of course.
Don't talk me back into hating on Trey Wisner, okay?
I'm
Come
not
on.
hating. I love it. I just said I would
Oh,
name my
it's about
kid
giving
after
him
him.
a friend. He needs a buddy. Like,
Yeah,
He needs
I'm
a
a
pal.
Trey-
Thunder
I'm a
buddy.
Trey-
Thunder.
I'm a
Lightning. Sorry.
Trey truther. I've been a Trey truther all year. I thought he got so much hate in the offseason for no reason. People being like, oh, CJ Baxter's going to be number one. And I love CJ too.
Make
And
it
I'm
known
like,
Evan
you guys
said
are
running back 4,
different
Trey Wisner.
drafting Trey. Like, it was crazy. But he does need a friend. He got beat up this year. I would not be surprised.
Well, which is why I say offensive line. I would
No, no,
I would
no,
love Trey
Nash,
to not be beat to
Nash,
ever
let me
love
talk.
beat
Let
to a
me
pole.
talk. I would not be surprised if Trey goes to the NFL because the running back shelf life, I mean, it's a short life. And so I could see if his agent is saying it's a weak running back group, he might be gone. Like, I'm begging him to stay if I'm Texas. Like, please stay. We'll get you help via the offensive line and another running back in the portal. And we've got Simon, et cetera. But, like, you just can't take the chances that this team took last year in terms of like the roster management. They took a lot of chances on banking on guys either recovering or exceeding expectations for their development. Like, you just can't do that 2 years in a row, or we're going to be right in the same position we are right now. You just
Man,
can't.
she's cooking. She's cooking.
What
Yeah, you cannot-
I'm hearing is a bunch of James Simon disrespect. Okay,
Nash, put
okay,
the
I
fan
love
down.
this
Put
is
the
the same
fan out.
conversation about Christian Clark last year. Remember when Christian Clark?
Hey, hold on a minute. Hold on, Evan.
Yeah,
I didn't say we
yeah,
could bring up.
yeah,
Hold
yeah.
I
on.
remember, I
yeah.
remember Christian Clark.
I don't know what's happening.
That's
but I'm-
still my guy.
I'm-
Okay. No, I get it, and yeah, again, that was
I
my
just
fan
want
hat
holes.
being
I
on.
just want holes. Okay. I
Yeah,
just
you
want
need
holes.
both. We need both. All right, we need the backs. We need a better on the interior for sure. Baker's coming along. Hopefully, we're solid at guard. All right, but on the interior, there must be improvement.
Just don't
All right,
tackle.
we've
Yeah.
got to get a lot better. We've got to get stronger. We've got to move people at the point of attack. And yes, it will make a back's job easier. But do you want a 6 or 7 yard gain, Nash, or do you want a 15 or 20 yard gain? Do
You know
want,
what? I will use one of my good buddies. My good buddy. He told me, he was like, you know what? If you ever play me on EA, I will leave you in a 4 to 5 yards cloud of dust, and the game will be over before you know it. That's exactly how I want to do it. Let's get 5 yards every single play. Team's broken. I think you know who that buddy was. That
Sark's
told me
about to
that lost
hire
there.
you just because you said that. I mean, the phone's ringing already. He heard 21-17 win, 4 to 5 yards, 12 personnel. On the
12
same.
Hey,
personnel,
loving that,
sign me
man.
up.
No,
I'm glad
12's
I
gonna
had
be good
him.
next year. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have better 12. And again, when I was so far against it this year, it's because the tight ends were young and they got better late. We seemed to find packages that worked against A&M. Personnel them, as far as group them together, they're a little bit better there. So credit to Sark and the staff for doing so. But that tight end group is going to be, in my opinion, pretty dang good. Especially
Townsend's-
if you
Nick
can get
Townsend's special.
injuries, keep him in the fold. The guy that came out. It's funny what happened. We started attacking with injuries a little bit there against the Aggies. Fun to see him kind of have his, kind of coming out moment there late. I know he scored a couple times early in the year, but just some really big plays and big momentum swings for Texas there. But all right, guys, we catch you for a little over an hour. I do appreciate everybody being here with us tonight. I think we've had Aggies, Sooners, Horns, maybe a little bit of everything. But yeah, go on over to Inside Texas right now and take advantage of the sell $1 subscription to come join us all, man, for all the different talk, portal, playoffs, team news, and the forums are fun, man. Come chop it up with all of us and have a good time. All right. Any final words, guys, before we let them go?
No,
Not for me.
just bracing myself for this weekend.
Michelle, first time on the channel, did a fantastic job. Nash, thanks for doing it. Evan, thanks for doing it. Go like the video, guys. Help us out a little bit, and we'll see you next time.